for in sprint form. So that's great. It's really hard to tell, but this is your elbow bent here. And on the front side, at this full extension, we expect this to close a little bit just because things are moving so fast. On the back side, it will probably open up, so this back arm is probably a little bit straighter. That just happens. And then, I don't know are you able to follow along as I go like frame by frame?
Yep.
So now this is the opposite leg, and that's the frame we're looking for. Now I can do the same thing. I can draw a straight line from this leg. So this means if you ever hear a sprint coach saying something like, be patient, they say be patient to athletes who shorten their stride when they try to just have a faster turnover. And they say be patient to try and encourage them to allow time to extend fully out the back and get this knee drive in the front. So you're already doing that. So that's good. So this is, and in this drive phase, that angle that I drew is obviously not straight up, right? Like this is your drive angle, which is also really good. So then if we drive forward a few more, so now you've only taken, this is your third stride you're about to take, but we see that position again. And now we can see the hand in the back a little better just because of the angle of the camera. So we see the bent arm in the front and the back, which is really good. And again, so now the angle is slightly less because you're going a little bit faster. It's still there, but I mean, now we're like 5 strides in, 6 strides in, another good extension and knee drive, same thing there. And so right around here, okay, now you're calling Terri to throw into the space out in front of you, which is also really good. So now we're probably, we won't judge that arm not being bent because you're communicating, which is fine. And so here, once you're out of the drive phase, you're not going to be able to draw a straight line from your heel to your head because now your upper body is more upright, but your leg is still driving out the back. So now if I draw a line, I draw a line to your hips, and now I draw a separate line. That was a little too straight this way. So now I know you're opening up into your top speed phase, which is really good. And so that's when your upper body starts to open up, that opens up your hips a little bit and it makes them a little bit higher. And that allows your front leg to open up and your knee to get a little bit higher. And that lengthens how long your stride is going to be. So that's why we open up in the top half of our body in the top speed. And so we're seeing that in you. Disc is up in the air and we know it's way out in front. So I'm going to just take a look. I've been focusing a lot on the back side. So see where that foot hits the ground and where your hips are. And then that one. So your first contact is probably right here, but then you're actually like fully contacting the ground like here or here. You're still pretty good. This one's starting to get just a touch more out in front of you, then you're over top of it. And same with that one. It's not by a lot, but in the previous ones, your foot might be just a little bit further back, and this one's just a little bit further forward. And that's probably a lot. This happens with everybody. When the disc is that far out in front of us, our natural tendency is to start to lean forward a little bit with our head and our chest because we're like, that's where I need to get to. And so we start leading with our chest and our head a little bit, being like, I really need to get there. Unfortunately, if we're already at a really high speed, it forces us to overextend with our foot, and we'll start to land, even if it's just a few inches or half a foot out in front, because this is so much further ahead of your, like now that you're fully touching the ground, before it was right under your hips, and now it's just in front of your hips. Now you have to get over top of that foot. So this step would actually be slowing you down just a tiny bit. Not a lot, because it's not that much in front of you, but just a tiny bit. And we'll see if the next one does the same thing. That one's harder to tell because it's on the other side. Ah, that one's better. So maybe that was just you changing direction. Oh, okay. So now, see how I can draw a straight line from your heel to your head again? Mm-hmm. You're back in your drive phase.
What does that mean?
So you went from, you started off back here when you first started running, and you were going, and you had to build up your speed. Your drive phase is how you accelerate. So you were accelerating, and I could draw a straight line from your heel to your head, and that was really good. But then you got pretty much up to your top speed, and that's when your upper body started being more straight up, and that allowed you to have a longer stride. You're back into your drive phase, but not because you're accelerating again. Like you'd already hit top speed or close to back here. You're back in your drive phase, I'm guessing, because you're already preparing to lay out for this frisbee.
Oh.
But it's going to be slightly slower than what your top speed position would be. So now I'm going to see if we hit that same position here again. So if I only watched this video from your last two steps, I'd be like, wow, this is such a really good drive phase. This is awesome. You're going to get to this frisbee because like you're hitting all the right positions. You're driving so well. So that's two. So this is going to be your third. This is going to be, and see how this is your load step for laying out. Mm-hmm. So the reason that step lands so far out in front of your, you have to do this to lay out. You land, this is kind of like, I think they call it blocking in long jump. You have to have a foot that translates some of your energy from like horizontal to vertical or whatever. In your case, it's to launch your body horizontally. So it's the opposite, but it's the same thing. So you're doing this to load up that foot, and I'm guessing you lay out from that foot. Yeah. So don't ever judge the layout step being like, oh, that's out in front of me. That happens. That's going to happen. And then you launch yourself off of that foot. And so in order to launch yourself off of that foot, you have to block and put it out in front of you a little bit. So that step doesn't count. That one has to be that way. And we would say the one before it probably is going to have to land out in front of it too, so you don't like all of a sudden just put all your weight on that one. So both of those I would say are fine for being in the drive phase, but this one and this one, so I'm being super nitpicky on you here. This is really good. This is kind of mean of
That's
me.
Good.
I would say you could have, oh shoot, I keep doing the wrong thing. There we go. You could possibly, and maybe we'll have to look at more layouts, because maybe it takes 4 steps to get ready for a layout. And so you have 4